And good evening and welcome back to your view with me on JJ Tabane. We're coming to you live from Linden here in Johannesburg as we launch ourselves here, 16 days of activism against women and children abuse. And my guest tonight, Carol Matolo, who is the author of Survivor's Tales. Carol, good evening and thank you so much for coming through to talk to us.
Thank you for having me.
What provoked you to write a book of this nature, Survivor's Tales?
Well, I was a victim of abuse myself, and after dealing with the after effects, I decided to talk to a few individuals on their experiences, and then this is how it came about.
Yeah, tell me about your experiences. A little bit, just give me one or two anecdotes. I know we need a whole night, but just tell me one or two that stand out, that really encouraged you to share your story with others.
Okay, I was in a relationship and it became really abusive when I became pregnant. And a few months after my son was born, we got into a physical fight. I left that evening, and then that very same day I was raped. So I had to deal with me being abused by my partner and then eventually being raped.
On the same night?
On the same night.
Sure. That's quite hectic, eh?
Yeah, very.
You talk a little bit about signs of identifying an abuser. A lot of people had an experience of being in an abusive relationship. Always ask the question, why do women in particular stay in an abusive relationship? Before we talk about why they got into it, so let's forgive them because you can't predict. You know, when you meet someone, you can't predict. But there's an issue about how you identify abusers. Tell us a little bit about that, the stuff that you share in that tale about how you identify, or you can, at least have telltale signs about people who are likely to be abusers in the long run.
Okay, the other things that you can literally watch out for is the way the person is controlling, the way they communicate with you, and generally how they act towards you. Because with me, when we were dating, there were no signs at all. Even if they were there, I overlooked them and I thought, okay, this person cared about me. And the constant calls, always knowing where I was, who I was with, I ignored all of those.
So the level of possessiveness.
Yeah, he's very possessive, and he controls what you wear, what you eat, who
what you wear.
Yeah, who you're with and everything. How you look like, you literally have to do as he says.
And you stayed through all of that because you thought it's because he cares so much.
And at the beginning, I thought, okay, maybe he's just caring. And then when I was pregnant, and it just became hectic, and he was like, no one is even going to want you because you're pregnant and everything. And I was like, okay, maybe he's right. Because in every argument, at the end of the day, he would apologize and say, you shouldn't have made me do that. If you hadn't acted a certain way, I wouldn't have reacted that way. So it was always my fault. You're apologizing, but differently.
Yeah. We're talking to Carol Matolo, who's author of Survivor's Tales. Maybe you're a survivor and you want to also share your story. You can give us a ring, of course, throughout the show. If you want to add to that conversation, you can also share your views on #YourView on 405. Tweet us at JJ Tabane at Newsroom 405. Obviously, you talk also about other survivors in terms of what you have found out in your journey, etc. Share some more of what are some of the other survivors' tales, so to speak, in terms of just their experiences, because you find that maybe women and men maybe don't share these tales enough, because if they do, then they would recognize themselves in some of those tales.
Okay, in this book, I talk more about male abuse, why men stay and how they're abused.
Yeah.
And in particular, when I started this campaign of abuse, I went on the streets of Maseru in Lesotho.
Yeah.
And generally, women would always ask, what did you do to the man? Instead of, how can we assist you?
My
And the
God.
man would be like, how can I help? Do you want a ride? Can I take you somewhere? Can I call someone to come and help you?
Yeah.
And then after that campaign, I had a lot of messages from men that, you know, my wife treats me this way, my wife talks to me this way, and I can't talk to anyone in the family because
Yeah.
they will think I'm a coward. And then another guy spoke to me about the way his ex-girlfriend abuses him financially.
Yeah.
Because of the kids. They had kids.
Yeah.
So she moved to another state, and every time the guy would want to see the child, she would make up, you know, stories about the kids not being able to come, why don't you send money, and this and this and this.
Sure. So there's a whole chapter of men's abuse. But is your belief that that's rife at all? That we should even be talking about men's abuse?
In my belief, we should, because there is a trend. We are one broken generation where we believe that men shouldn't be speaking about their experiences and what they go through. And if you're not fixing men and trying to help men and also fixing what is happening around women, we are going to be going around in circles and not actually fixing the problem. So we both have to give both genders their attention.
Yeah. The statistics are actually horrific. That 32% of men, you know, somehow find themselves in a situation where they have been abusers. They've been on the wrong side of the law and so on. So it's clearly a big issue that obviously should be started, you know, as at the nascent stages, at the early stages where we're dealing with the boy child and so on. But we'll park that for now, for a little bit, and help me to understand, why do women stay? Let's analyze this. Why do women stay? You are beaten up, and they will say no, because he loves me. And then you are beaten up for the second time, a third time, you end up in hospital, end up in ICU, you still come out and you stay. And you are the one who says, oh, I stand by my man.
We stay for many reasons. Some are financial, some it's because of the kids, some it's because of the families. When you go to families and you tell them about what is happening, you don't just go around. Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't go around telling people your business. You fix whatever that is happening.
Yeah.
They don't come in as a family and want to hear what is going on and what caused this and so on.
Yeah.
It's always the woman's fault. You're supposed to sweep everything under the carpet.
Yeah.
So we stay because of that. What is my family going to say? Am I a disappointment because I left a marriage or a relationship?
Yeah.
And now there are kids involved, and now it's going to be my fault that the kids don't have a father because I chose to leave. Now, okay, if it's for financial reasons, where do I start after leaving this particular person who was sponsoring my lifestyle? So it's for various reasons. And it's not easy to break out and just decide I'm leaving. It is not easy. I've been there. I stayed and stayed and stayed. And at the end of the day, I was like, do I really want a son that is raised in this manner? Because there was a time he literally hit me in front of my son. I had just given birth like 3 months ago, and you hit me in front of my son. If it's going to happen consistently, what am I raising? Am I raising my son to realize that this is how you treat women? This is how women are supposed to be treated?
But how do you explain women who are accomplished stay? Women who have their own money, women who, you know, don't need the men to survive. They are beaten up, right? Humiliated at home. When in the boardrooms, there are high flyers and there are thought leaders in our society and so on. And
remember, I said we are a broken nation.
Yeah.
Where we come from, some women need a role model of a man because there was no father. So now this guy comes in and he has this persona that he cares about you, and you're looking for that validation that, okay, he cares. If he leaves, who's going to love me? Who's going to treat me the way he treated? Because those people have a way of being overly romantic, overly caring, and then they hit you, and then you're like, but why did he do that? And, he says, I love you so much.
Yeah, that's why I hit you.
I'm sorry, I love you so much. That's why I hit you.
And you receive flowers tomorrow.
Yeah, you see? So he has a way of spoiling you so that you don't go out of the relationship.
What made you leave? What broke the camel's back, as they say?
My son.
Your son?
My son.
Your son said you must leave.
No. What made me leave was my son.
Yeah.
That argument, that fight in front of my son with a 3-month-old baby lying there and you're hitting me and choking me. I was like, am I willing to die and leave this child here? Who's going to raise that child if I die? Yes, my mother is there, but am I not going to give that child the best of my ability and love that child wholeheartedly?
So it was a life and death situation.
Yeah.
But the abuse didn't start when the baby was there. The abuse had been
Sex most of the time and just let it go like that. And then when the child was there, I was like, no, this is not happening.
If you found that sharing your story has helped some women who didn't want to leave to actually have the courage to leave?
It has helped a lot of women, but the funny thing is they are still staying.
So how did it help them then?
No. They're able to talk about it,
Yeah.
but somehow they still go back. These men have a way of pulling you back into their life. And without lack of support from family and friends, you always find yourself back into that situation. So for me, I was very lucky. I had family that was there for me. For some time, they didn't know what I went through. And they gave me that space to heal, to seek for help without, me explaining myself every time. When I was ready to talk about it, they gave me the platform to talk about it. But when I said I need to be home, I was welcome with open arms.
All right, we continue the conversation after the break. I want to understand what your own views are about how to combat gender-based violence generally in our continent, in a country. What should be done to try and educate more people to be against this, including men in our society. We're talking to Carol Matolo, who's the author of Survivors' Tales. Is it Mutolo? Mutolo. Yeah, all right. Thank you for that correction there. To pronounce it in Deep Sotho, all the way from the Mountain Kingdom there. Let's take a break now.